Marcus Lemonis, he is the chairman, executive chairman of Bed Bath & Beyond, and he's currently in some sort of a fight, if you will. I don't think he's fighting it. I think he's reacting like a gentleman and a businessman with his responses to Governor Newsom. But he's in this argument with Governor Newsom because he said yesterday, Bed Bath & Beyond just cannot do business in California anymore. It's just too expensive. It's just too overregulated and no longer makes sense for Bed Bath & Beyond. Welcome to the program, Marcus.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm very good. I just want to point out before we go, because I think this is important to say, because you started yesterday saying this is not about politics. And I just want to point out that you're not a Trump supporter. In 2017, you came out, and I'm not going to go through it because you went back and forth and corrected and everything else. But, you criticized what Donald Trump said in Charlottesville when it was thought that he had said, hey, and the Nazis are pretty good too, which we now know because the full audio and video is out, and we can show that that's not what he was talking about at all. But you came out, as did a whole buttload of other CEOs, and said, if that's what you believe, then, please, we don't necessarily want you shopping here. So it's not that you are doing this because you're a big Trump supporter. When I saw your name attached to this, I thought, no, this is about business, because he's not on either side here on this.
Yeah, I'm not on either side.
Is that accurate?
But I will tell you, yeah, it's kind of accurate from a historical standpoint. It's not accurate from a modern day standpoint. I think as time has gone on and the facts have been revealed and things have played out and moves have been made by this administration that I think advance business and advance the American, citizen in a way that I think it puts us back on track. I would say that I feel very differently today than I used to. And that's really not an emotional reaction. That's an intelligent reaction of just looking at what the administration is doing to try to deregulate business, not to the disadvantage of a worker and not to the disadvantage of anybody, but to the advantage of capitalism in our country and to the advantage of investing in American business. And, just as a reminder, Glenn, and you and I met a long, long time ago when I had the Profit at CNBC, that my other business is Camping World. And I've been through hell and back trying to defend the flag from the same kind of ideology that I'm seeing out of California, which is your flags are too big, they're not approved. And, anybody does a little research, they'll see that, cities have sued me, cities have threatened to take me to jail, and the flag still hasn't come down. So what you'll find with me is that I try to be really pragmatic. I also happen to be a resident of Chicago, and if anybody wants a preview to the movie of what's going to happen in New York City, come to my apartment on Michigan Avenue, and I'll give you a preview to what's happened and how socialism is just crushing not only my personal property, but other businesses around me. So I would say as one gets smarter and one gets older and one learns more and one listens, you evolve as a human. And I want to make sure that we're clear about that.
I have to tell you, it doesn't change my point of view that this is about business, but I'm so glad you cleared that up, because, that's all people should be striving for, is when there are new facts available, you will actually say, oh, wait a minute, I didn't see that, I didn't know that, or, things are changing, I was wrong. Yeah. And that's so rare. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
So, let me give you another slam from the left, or from, the people on, Twitter, and even Gavin Newsom. Oh, you were out of business, and this is just a business move to get your name out there. Yeah. That's the only reason why you're taking California on.
Well, let's talk about that. So number one, I took over a company called Overstock about a year and a half ago, and Overstock was a business that's been out there a long time. And they bought the intellectual property in the fall of 23 from the bankrupt estate of Bed Bath & Beyond. And the reason that I took it over is that the company had lost its way and was losing a lot of money. And I made a commitment to the shareholders that we would get back to profitability. And as part of that, Bed Bath & Beyond is a significant underpinning of that. And so I needed to remind both Governor Newsom and other folks who we're celebrating the fact that Bed Bath & Beyond had gone out of business. We're celebrating the fact that Bed Bath & Beyond had filed bankruptcy. And it is true. It's a fact. It happened. As I told Hannity last night, it happened. The reality of it is that America's built on the modern day comeback. And we've invested hundreds of millions of dollars in Bed Bath. We run $1 billion online business. We bought a business called Kirkland's. That's out of Jackson, Tennessee, a family business, and we're using those 300 stores to convert. 414 of them are in California. I was disappointed to see Governor Newsom, in my opinion, just from a level of professionalism, instead of saying, you know what, I don't agree with your points, and I think you're doing this for the wrong reasons, and whatever he wanted to say. However, I'd love to figure out how you and a bunch of other business leaders can tell me, as the governor of the fourth largest economy in the world, which he likes to remind us every single day, how to make it the third largest economy, and what I could do, what things are out there that I'm willing to compromise on, or that I'm willing to help understand, that will drive investment back into my state, that will drive capital back into my state, that will fill commercial real estate that's empty back into my state, to appreciate commercial properties, residential properties, and to drive value. Because as a governor of a state, my job is to protect my people. I get it, fine.
Right.
But also to create positive cash flow for my state, which means I generate more than I spend, but I don't want to do it on the backs of just creating another, nonsensical tax. I didn't get that. And that's really what has made me convinced that Governor Newsom is not doing things for the benefit of California. He's doing things because he thinks that his so-called base is going to rally around his nonsense.
So have you heard from other CEOs in the last 24 hours? Have you heard from anybody else in California? You don't have to name names, but
yeah, I won't.
Saying the same thing?
I have. I've heard from very, very significant tech leaders in the state of California asking if there's a way for them to set up a meeting with Governor Newsom and myself. Of course, the answer is yes. But they all acknowledge the silliness behind avoiding capitalism and rejecting capitalism as if it's this dirty word, and everybody that wants to make money or who's experienced success is a bad person. And that seems to be the theme that's coming out of the governor's office, particularly with his intern-run press room Twitter account, or whatever it's called these days.
So this is not a final decision with you. He could do something to change your mind.
I think if Governor Newsom was really thinking about a political run and running a state that he believes is the superior state in the country, he would invite myself, maybe not me, maybe I'm not qualified to be in a room with him, but other CEOs to say, hey, I'm hearing this and I want to learn and I want to change. Much like I said to you at the beginning of our conversation, what facts do I not have, and how can you convince me how I can do better, how I can learn more? That's the sign of a good leader. That's a leader that I want to follow. And that's, I think, even if you just take a look at our current president's, I think he's got a different tone in his second term than he does his first term, and I couldn't be convinced otherwise. It feels far more collaborative, and that's what I'm looking for.
Let me play the opposite side here for a second and say what Trump is doing. I see the regulation. I see what he's doing to business, and it is, thank God, I can finally breathe again as a businessman. However, if I'm in your business, I would assume you get a lot of material, a lot of your products from China. How are the tariffs affecting you?
Well, we've diversified the sourcing of our products, and the one thing that when I came in made it a bit of a mandate, and it's a balance between providing value to our shareholders and doing what I think is right. I come from the RV world where we make everything in Elkhart, Indiana, and we employ, tens of thousands of people that make products in this country. But there are parts and pieces that come from overseas. And the reality of it is that until manufacturing in the U.S. is is set up and can handle the capacity, that in the short term, there is an alternative sourcing. And that applies to furniture and lighting and certain textiles coming from around the globe. And the tariffs are not great. And I don't think that Trump would even try to defend that they're great. It's a rebalancing act. But Glenn, here's the thing that I mentioned on Big Money the other day. If you're really thinking about the triangulation of how Trump is approaching rebalancing everything, whether it is using energy as the leverage to bring Ukraine and Russia to the table, or using tariffs to bring other world leaders to the table, it's all really being done, in my opinion, to recalibrate America's position, both politically and financially, in a way that maintains our dominance.
I think you are spot on, and you're seeing that with the way he handled Ukraine. He went in tough with the tariffs over in Europe and with NATO. He was tough with them. And then he said, you want to support Ukraine? You can buy this stuff from us, but you have to do it, but we'll provide it to you. And now look at all of the world leaders are at the table. America is leading again, just not spending all the money and doing all the work. We are in the actual leadership position, which is remarkable. And I think he's doing that in every category.
Listen, I think the one thing that this administration can acknowledge is that the national debt is at a level that nobody believes it should be at, and the deficit's at a level that nobody believes it should be at. And it's a very complicated, but not overly complicated math equation. We have a certain amount of money leaving, and we have not enough money coming in. And the way that you rejigger that is to find the balance. And nobody that I know, including myself, is going to argue that the tariff execution in the last 6 months has been perfect. Like, I don't even think this administration would acknowledge it's been perfect.
Right.
It's been herky-jerky on the markets. It's been herky-jerky for business leaders. And at some point, we all hope and pray that it finds its footing at some point. And nobody should try to convince anybody that the consumer isn't going to be slightly pinched. But the balancing act of being slightly pinched on the tariff side is what sort of relief could happen on the variable interest rate side. And that's why you see this other piece being triangulated around where's the monetary policy and how could that be, modified to provide the relief to offset.
Let me ask you, are you, as a pretty influential business leader, what's your outlook look like for the first half of next year? People are kind of holding their breath, not sure what to do. Are we headed towards better times or same kind of times or worse times, do you think?
I think we're headed towards, unfortunately, probably a little bit more of the same. What may be extracted from that is a little bit of the volatility. The consumer does have, a significant amount of debt, and they do have a significant amount of pressure on them with the interest rates. The balance on the interest rates are you can't just rip them down by 2 points tomorrow. That's going to create chaos. You have to stair-step it down. And, like in retail or in any business, you test and you measure and you test and you measure.
Yeah, right.
And I think what Trump has been saying and what Besant's been saying is we just got to get some relief for consumers. One point, Glenn, that I want to make, inflation during the COVID period was a function of too much money in the system, too much free money in the system, and demand outpacing supply. In this particular instance, we don't have a demand outpacing supply problem. We have a reset of the cost of goods problem. And it's a different type of inflation. And some people have said to me, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. There's only one type of inflation. And the truth is, that's not right. Inflation driven by demand outpacing supply is a runaway train. Inflation, because you're resetting and recalibrating prices when supply and demand are relatively tight in nature, is an adjustment period. It's transitory. And you have to really look at the difference between the two. And I think the Fed needs to understand the difference between those two. Again, that's why business leaders should be far more involved.
Marcus, it's great to talk to you again. And I have to tell you, I think that's the first time anybody said this inflation is transitory that I've agreed with. Really great analysis on that. Thank you so much. Marcus Lemonis from Bed Bath & Beyond.